Hello everyone, o kumusta na tong tanan? So karon we have to discuss another topic, but this topic is actually a topic in algebra. Now, I noticed that this topic is also useful even in the higher math subject, even in your differential and integral calculus. So, you are still using the synthetic division. Okay, so let us have a review. Now, synthetic division can only be applied if we have this form. So, this is the general form in which the synthetic division can be used. Now, you have a dividend which is a polynomial and your divisor is a first degree expression in a form of x minus r. So, it means your x has a coefficient of 1, then the second term is a constant term. Under a synthetic division, if you have to divide this, so you have to use only a value r as your divisor. And you have to arrange the elements here, forming your rows, no? Now, say you have the given. Okay, so you have x to the fourth power minus 3x squared, and that is over x minus 2. So, this is actually your x minus r, which means your r is this constant. If this is minus, so the term here is actually the constant 2, which represents your r. Now, this is how to arrange your synthetic division if we have to see our solution. Now, 2 here is coming from the denominator, which is now used as a divisor. Minus 2, so you have to use a positive. If that is plus 2, then you will be using a negative 2 as your r value. Now, arrange the term of your polynomial dividend in a descending power of your variable if they are not properly arranged. Okay, so you have to start with the highest degree term, and the highest degree term or the leading term here is x to the fourth power. So if that is x to the fourth power, then all the terms must also be considered like x cubed, x squared, x, until you have a constant term. Now, you have to collect the constant coefficient for every term. Say your x to the fourth power has a coefficient of 1, so you can collect that one. X cubed is a missing term. So, for any missing term, we can provide a zero element. After x cubed, the next term is x squared. So, and there is an x squared term. So, x squared has a coefficient of minus 3. You collect that one. So, we are actually forming our first row. So, our first row will contain our divisor. This is coming from the denominator. This is coming from your dividend. Okay, so 1 from x squared, 0 from x cubed, minus 3 from x squared. So, how about your x term? It's also missing, including the constant term. So, that's why we have 0 and we have also a 0 element. So, the next element which can be formed is the first element of your third row. That can be done by bringing this down. So, 1 is taken down. So, this element here will be multiplied to your divisor. The product of 1 and 2 will be placed in the next column below the element in the next column. So, we have 0 in column 2 in column of 0. Then, we can add them. So, 0 plus 2 is 2. Then, this can again be multiplied back to your divisor. So, that's 2 times 2, that's 4. And you consider the next column. So, ibutang siya right at the, right below the element minus 3. So, minus 3, you add your 4. So, you have minus 3 plus 4. So, you have 1. What is the product of 1 and 2? Okay, so you can have the next column again. That's 2. Adding the 2, 0 and 2. So, you have 2 as the product. Then, again, you can multiply. So, the process is just repeated. Then you can have the product of 2 and 2, which is 4. Then 0 can now be added to 4, and the result is 4. The one in red color, the element here, actually represents the remainder. Because when we divide, if it is not exactly divisible, then there may be a remainder. If that is exactly divisible, then the remainder will be equal to 0. Okay? Now, how about these elements in blue color? So, this is actually termed as the quotient row. They are the constant coefficient of the terms of your quotient. Now, when we divide x to the fourth power by x, so the quotient will actually start with a degree which is 1 less than the given dividend. That means you have to start with x cubed with the coefficient of 1. So this is the form if you present your answer. So after you divide, so the answer will be expressed. So with your dividend P over x minus r, so the result is equal to q sub x. So q sub x represents your quotient. Then plus remainder. If there is a remainder involved, if it's 0, so you can just ignore the last term. Okay, so that is r over the x minus r. Remainder, then you have the x minus a small r. Okay? Now, following this form, I may copy the given. Okay, and I can collect the terms from my quotient, starting with x cubed with a coefficient of 1, followed with x squared with a coefficient of 2, then followed with an x term with a coefficient of 1, then we have the constant term. But still, we have the remainder of 4, so plus 4 over your divisor of x minus r. So that is the first example in synthetic division. Okay, so we have another one. Okay, let's try to consider if we have a divisor which is x plus 3. So it is a positive constant term. So if the standard form is x minus r and we will be using r as our divisor, so if we have to form the x minus r, so that is just the same when you have x minus a negative 3. So that means your r must be equal to negative 3. Okay, para madali ito istorya, if we have x plus 3, then make use of a negative 3 in your divisor r in the synthetic division. So the value which is to be considered first is the negative 3. Okay, when that is x plus 4, you will be using negative 4, correct? If that is x minus 1, you will be using a positive 1. So kung positive gani, you can have a negative 3 in your divisor. So it's minus 3. Again, what is the leading term? The leading term is x to the 4th power. Here you have a constant of 3 from x to the 4th power. It must be followed with x cubed. So I put all the terms involved from x to the 4th power para wa tayo mabiyaan. So x to the 4th power, it will be followed with x cubed, x squared, x until a constant term. So ato nang ituyog butang para wala tayo mabiyaan nga element. Okay? Coefficient of x to the 4th power is 3. X cubed has a coefficient of 13. Okay? X squared is missing, so that's why we have 0. First degree term is also missing, so it's also with a 0 element for any missing term. Constant term, it's present, and that is minus 16. Okay, again, bring this down. This is the first element of your third root. This is the coefficient of your quotient, the first term of your quotient, Okay? So we have 3. We multiply 3 to your r minus 3. So that's minus 9. Go with the next column. So, dire. So, if I have minus 9, we can add 13 to negative 9. So, we have 4. And 4 will be multiplied to minus 3 where to place the product. So, it should be placed on the next column below 0. So, minus 12. 0 and negative 12 added. So, you have the minus 12. And minus 12 multiplied with minus 3. So, we have a product of 36 being in like signs. Diba? So, 0 plus 36, I have 36. So, 36 times a negative 3, we have a negative 108. If added, okay, so there I have a negative 124. The one in red color, we call this as the remainder. These are the, elements in your quotient row. Quotient will start with a degree which is 1 lower than your given dividend. So if you have x to the 4th power, you divide with x, so you can start with what term? X cubed term. And this is the coefficient. So how to present your answer? The answer will start with 3 x cubed, correct? Plus 4 x squared minus 12x, then plus 36. So you have a negative 124 over, so your divisor, which is x plus 3. So this is now your answer. Now I have to show a divisor which is also a first degree expression, but it does not follow exactly with the standard form in which the synthetic division is applicable. You notice that your divisor here is a first degree expression, but If I have a constant here, your x dire has a coefficient which is not 1 exactly. So what are we going to do first? Okay? So I have to produce a coefficient here which is 1 by dividing this with 2 every term. So the coefficient here, if this is 2, so use that as a divisor. So 2x divided by 2 becomes x and minus 1 half for my constant term. That negative 1 half. Okay, so you have to divide your divisor by the coefficient of x to produce a constant divisor, which is, this term is actually negative 1 half. So it should be 1 half because it can be x minus 1 half as your divisor. But dire, if ato ning i-divide, dapat unta, the numerator will also be divided with the same expression. But what we did, niarata sa divisor nag-divide. Anyway, so we can just neutralize that later. No? The effect nga ato man siyang i-divide ang ubos, wata mo neutralize sa babaw, no? Sa denominator naman itong i-divide. Okay, now, proceed with the synthetic division. Okay, let's find a cure for that later. Okay, so 1 half from this, after we divide with 2, then I collected the coefficient from x cubed, I have 4. So, if the leading term is x cubed, the second term must be x squared. Okay, the next term must be an x term, and a constant term will follow. Okay, for all the terms, I have to collect the constant coefficient. X cubed has a coefficient of 4. X squared, it's missing, correct? X term has a constant coefficient of minus 5. Then you have the constant term which is minus 2. I bring this down. 4. So I'm now taking the third row. Now in my synthetic division, so 4 down. 4 multiplied with 1 half is 2. Go with the next column and add. So the same process. Then we have 2 as their sum. Then 2 times 1 half is 1. When added, this is minus 4. Minus 4 multiplied with 1 half is minus 2. When added, this is minus 4. This is your remainder. Now, your quotient row is supposed to be kini. But this is not the final answer yet. For the quotient, you have to divide every number in the third row, the third number row. Kini. Imo siyang i-divide by 2. Which is still the same ganina pag-divide na to 2 because we did not divide our dividend by 2. So it is the quotient which will be divided by 2. So as a result, this can be 2, this can be 1, this can be minus 2. So they are the constant coefficient of your quotient which will also start with what degree? 1 degree lower than your dividend. So you can start with 2x squared. Okay? So this is now how you present your answer. So you can have 2. 2 is a result when we divide 4 by 2 because we have a coefficient of 2 in our first degree expression and the divisor. So we have 2x squared divided by 2, we have 1 x term, and you have minus 2 after you divide by 2, so that is your constant term. Now, the remainder here, do not include this dividing with 2. Why? Because this remainder will still be divided with your original divisor of 2x minus 4. So, only the elements of your quotient row will be divided by this coefficient. Do not include the remainder element. Okay? So, just to familiarize, here is the last example. My divisor is 3x plus 1, correct? Okay, so this is a first degree divisor. But the coefficient of x is not 1, so it's 3. So to determine your r, okay, the divisor, so you have to divide with 3, so you have x plus 1/3. So what is your r? In your divisor, I mean, so it must be a negative 1/3. Okay, so divide the divisor by 3 to produce a constant divisor of minus 1/3. It's minus 1/3 because this is plus 1/3. Actually, what is formed here if you divide by 3 is really x plus 1/3. Now, if you want to neutralize, so dapat you also have to divide this by 3. Pero we did not do that. Now, instead, it is the quotient that is being subjected to further division after we come up with a quotient row. Okay? So, proceed with the synthetic division with my minus 1/3 as my r, which is please star. Ganyan. This is coming from where? The x cubed term. Then the next term is an x squared term and that is present, correct? Next is an x term. So there is no missing term, correct? Cube, squared, x to power 1 and a constant. So all the terms are there. So we have 6 minus 13, 1, then 5. Bring this down. Form your third row. Bring the first element down. And this is the first element of your quotient row. You multiply with negative 1/3. What is the product? The product of which is minus 2. You put that in the next column. That's minus 2, which can be added to minus 13. So that's minus 15. 1/3 of minus 15 or minus 15 times a negative 1/3, correct? That is positive 5. So adding 1 and 5, that is equal to 6. So 6 times a negative 1/3, it is minus 2, correct? Then we can add. This is the remainder. Okay, what's next? Ganina. For the quotient, divide every number in the third number row. This is the third number row, correct? By, o sa ito i-divide, by the coefficient of x. So you can divide by 3. Okay, except for the last element. So, how about your final answer? The quotient will start with, okay, a result when you divide by 3. So, 6 divided by 3 is equal to 2. And that is x squared term because x cubed is divided with x or a first degree expression here. So, the quotient will start with a term or has a degree which is 1 less than the dividend. So, we have 2x squared from this, 6 divided by 3. What is negative 15 divided by 3? It is negative 5 and that is an x term. And what is 6 divided by 3? That's 2. Plus, do not include this in the division of 3. So, just have this remainder be divided with the original divisor of 3x plus 1. And this is now your quotient. So, that's all with the synthetic division. So, this is JUF or Sir Joselito Ferraren saying thank you for watching and I am inviting those who may be new to our channel. Katong karon pa nakaliili sa itong channel. So, ayag ihikaw ang pag-subscribe. Unya, i-share sa uban because I know na apay uban nga posible maka-enjoy ini. Okay, so thank you for being around.